Bionicle fans! Through the darkness and the light, we've seen the story of our favorite biomechanical beings fight against foes, friends, or even themselves. Bionicle is unlike any other story because of its characters. There are heroes who betray their friends to save themselves, villains who slay their allies to save others, or even those who do the wrong thing for the right reasons. Tragedy is a common theme in the decade that has followed Bionicle. It has defined so many characters in the story, and that is what we will be diving into today. My name is TheShadowedOne1, and these poor souls are on my list for the top 10 Tragic Bionicle Characters. This list only includes Generation 1 characters and involves heroes, villains, those in the middle, or even those who are questionable. This list is my personal opinion, and facts and theories are taken from the official Bionicle storyline. Now, shall we get on with the tragedy? At number 10, we have Nidiki. Nidiki is a case of treacherous tragedy. He was once a Matoran turned Toa who learned to strike from the shadows on the Trenkron Peninsula. Nidiki became close friends with Toa Likan on Metru Nui and fought against many threats to the city. During the Toa Dark Hunter War, Nidiki became greedy and tired of his current life and wished for more, so he allied with Lariska and the Dark Hunters to betray the Toa. Likan saw through his deception and banished Nidiki along with the Dark Hunters at the conflict's conclusion. He remained friends with Lariska on Odina until he tried to leave the Dark Hunters, only for the Shadowed One to have Rudaka mutate him into an insectoid monster, forcing him to serve the Dark Hunters forever. Nidiki was ultimately killed by Pterodax after trying to stop Turaga Likan and the Toa Metru from escaping the city. At number 9, we have Makuta Miserix. Makuta Miserix is the last surviving Makuta, and the former leader of the Brotherhood of Makuta. Miserix once led the Brotherhood where it stood for something. He served Matanui and performed his duties to protect the universe. He was extremely intelligent and cautious. However, those traits did not allow him to foresee that his most trusted lieutenant Pterodax would betray him. Pterodax took control of the Brotherhood and ordered Miserix be killed, but Krika disobeyed and imprisoned him. Later, the Order of Matanui rescued Miserix to fight against those who turned on him, but also to get vengeance on Pterodax. Pterodax was eventually slain by Matanui, but not before Pterodax killed all other Makuta and destroyed what the Brotherhood once stood for, and that is why Miserix is on this list. At number 8, we have the Av-Matoran Borak. Once again, we have a group of individuals instead of a singular being, but they all deserve to be mentioned. The Av-Matoran are Matoran of Light, and the first Matoran created by the Great Beings. They helped build the Matanui robot and served the will of the Great Spirit. However, being an Av-Matoran comes at a price, as those destined become Borak. The hundreds of thousands of Borak that become part of the swarms that the Toa Mata fought on Matanui were once former Matoran. The Av-Matoran consider it a rare privilege to be destined to become Borak, but you also can't help but feel sad for those that do. It's a tragedy to go from being a unique individual to a mindless mechanical drone, a part of the swarms. At number 7, we have Botar. Botar is on this list because he was one of the few Bionicle characters whose death could have been avoided. Botar was an Order of Matanui member, and a being from a savage race that could teleport wherever they chose. He served the will of Matanui and upheld the law of the Great Spirit. His role was to transport the irredeemable to the pit, a prison for the worst of the worst. He was responsible for capturing the Baraki and also taking Brutaka to the pit, where the latter redeemed himself. Botar would later help Brutaka again to free Miserix, but Makuta Ikarax intervened with his mission, and after a brutal but brief fight, Botar was slain by the Makuta, and while they replaced him with another, his death left a lasting impact on the Order of Matanui. At number 6, we have Mezeka. Mezeka is a Komatoran on the Trenkron Peninsula and the rival of the evil Voltraz. He was once the student to a scholar who was killed by Voltraz, and Mezeka set out to bring Voltraz to justice. Mezeka realized that the only way to defeat his enemy was to be like his enemy. Mezeka was eventually recruited and trained by the Order of Matanui as a spy. Mezeka and Voltraz fought each other throughout the Matoran universe until both were teleported to an alternate dimension, where Matanui succeeded in restoring Spherus Magna and the Makuta never betrayed him. Because of his inner darkness, Voltraz was taken away against Mezeka's wishes, denying Mezeka not only his vengeance, but also bringing his enemy to justice. At number 5, we have Motoro. Motoro has been mentioned before on a previous top 10, but it only felt appropriate that he also be included on this list. Motoro, as we all know, was the Matoran scholar and translator to Turaga Nuju, who went with Jala, Nuparu, Hali, Kungu, and Hyuki on a journey to save the Toanuva. He, like the others, became transformed into Toa Ignika and battled the Paraka, Vizan, and other threats. In the pit, he fought against the Baraki and Makuta Pterodax himself. In the end, Motaro donned the Kanohi Ignika, the Mask of Life, and sacrificed his life to save Matanui's and thus the entire universe. At the same time, in a last gesture of friendship, Motaro teleported the Toa Mari to Metru Nui, saving them. Motaro's sacrifice was fateful, not only because he was the bravest of all Toa, but also tragic, because his death allowed Pterodax to take control of the Matanui robot and plunge the world into darkness. However, Motaro's sacrifice would influence the Ignika, and thus Matanui, who would put an end to Pterodax once and for all. At number 4, we have Kraka. Kraka is the last of a shape-shifting Rahi species that fell victim to the Vizorak horde. She eventually made her home under the Onu Metru archives, where she encountered and battled the Toa Metru, who had entered her territory. In the end, Kraka overwhelmed herself when she shape-shifted into amalgamation of all the Toa and fled. Kraka would eventually meet the Toa again when the Vizorak horde took control of the city. Kraka became persuaded to help the Toa by Rahaka Pooks and Toa Anawa. Together with the Tatorak, they saved the other Toa against the Zyvon. At great cost, Kraka sacrificed herself to trap the Zyvon back in the Zone of Shadows. In fury, Anawa killed the Kagurok responsible. Luckily, over 1,000 years later, a portal released Kraka and the Tatorak on Voya Nui. The Toa Herdika discovered Rahi within themselves. Perhaps Kraka was a Rahi who discovered a little Toa within herself. At number 3, we have Lasovic. Lasovic is by far one of the most suffering because his entire story is built on cataclysmic tragedy. Lasovic is a Toa of air, and the leader of the Toa Kordak, the first Toa team. He was best friends with Matoran Sarda and Idris. When the Toa Kordak were ambushed by Zyglak, Lasovic hesitated, and his entire team was killed. Bereft and guilt-ridden, Lasovic returned home only to find his Turaga insane and his friends sent to Kurzani. He spent thousands of years trying to redeem himself. Lasovic eventually entered Mari Nui to defeat Kurzani and put an end to his reign, where he found Sarda and Idris again. He fought Kurzani and nearly lost, but Sarda rekindled his strength and together defeated the warlord. Reunited with his friends, Lasovic could finally let go of his past mistakes and look towards the future. At number 2, we have Matanui, the being, not the island. Matanui is the great spirit, and the one that all beings in the Matoran universe look up to and praise. Except one group of individuals who would go on to betray him. Matanui and his massive robotic body was created by the great beings before the shattering occurred. His mission was to observe the universe and return home to repair the broken planet. Matanui at first did look over his inhabitants, but forgot about them. Makuta Pterodax would use the opportunity to betray Matanui and put him in a deep sleep that would over 1,000 years kill him. When Motaro brought him back, his spirit could not return to his mind in time, and Pterodax took control and dispelled him from his own body in the Mask of Life. Matanui would land on Barra Magna, where he would learn what it meant to be a hero, have friends, deal with choices and consequences, and fight evils he never knew. He would free the planet from the Skrull and then fight the ultimate battle against Pterodax and win. Matanui would heal the planet and allow the people of Spherus Magna and the Matoran universe to coexist in peace without his presence as he lay dormant in the Mask of Life. And finally, at number 1, we have Likan. Wasn't expecting our favorite Toa Fire on this list at number 1, were you? It was a close match between Likan and Matanui, but in the end, Likan still stands as the most tragic character in the entirety of Bionicle because his death struck the most with me and from what I gather with all fans. Likan was the Toa of Fire and the leader of the Toa Mangai. He became good friends with the Matoran Vakama. He defended Metru Nui from such threats like the Kanohi Dragon and later the Toa Dark Hunter War, which would lead to the betrayal of Nidiki, his best friend and soon worst enemy. When Pterodax took control of Metru Nui, impersonating Turaga Duma, he had the Dark Hunters kill the Toa Mangai, leaving only Likan. Likan would sacrifice his own power and create the new Toa Metru, and thus become a Turaga. He trained the Toa Metru and mentored Vakama to be a leader. In the battle at the Great Barrier, Pterodax and Vakama fought for the Vahi, the Mask of Time. Moments before Vakama would be slain by Makuta, Likan sacrificed his life to save Vakama, fulfilling his destiny and thus motivating Vakama to be a Toa and defeat Makuta Pterodax. His passing and his lessons and his legend would be taught forever, and he still lives on in all Toa that came before and after, and that is why Likan is number 1 on my list. And that concludes my list for the top 10 Tragic Bionicle characters. This was definitely one of my most challenging lists I've made because there's so many characters that felt tragic or devastating. Tell me what you thought of my list. Did you agree or did you disagree? Tell me who you would pick as your top 10 Tragic Bionicle characters. Like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out and keeps pushing me to make more great content for you guys. See you next time, and may the legend of Bionicle continue through all of us.